Hello there. Welcome into a Thursday edition of the show. So glad to have you, whether you're listening on your radio, streaming the show online at extrasports1300.com, or if you've downloaded and are listening on the Extra Sports 1300 app for free, sponsored by Diversus Health, mental health and well-being for all. A veritable cornucopia of sports topics await you for the next 2 hours. If you want to hang with me, Sweet 16 coming up at 5 o'clock. The number to get in touch with the show is 719-247-1313. You can call or text that number. You can also find me on X at Gingerly Tweets. Doug Collins once said about Michael Jordan, he can roll out of bed and get you 30. Well, I think we're going to have to modernize that and amend that just a bit. Because apparently Nikola Jokic can roll out of bed and get you 30, 10, and 10. What we saw last night, we have never seen before from Nikola Jokic. In the fact that he missed 5 games. What we saw from him, we've seen before. And we're spoiled by the fact that we've seen it before. But we've never seen it in his first game back after missing 5 games in a row. The guy never misses games. Plays through a myriad of ailments, some that we know, some that we don't. Never misses more than just a game or two here and there. He missed 4 games straight in 2023. He missed 3 in a row in 2020, 5 this year. That's it. Those are his extended stays on the injury list. And now in the games after those absences, he's averaging a 33-point Sombor double. 33 points, 10 rebounds, and 9 assists. The prevailing wisdom of this would be last night you tuned into the game and you had to keep your expectations low for Nikola Jokic. He's been out for a couple weeks, right? He's never missed this many games in a row in his career. It's going to take him a minute, right? Nope. Didn't even take him a minute. And he puts up another triple-double to become once again, or set the new mark for the most triple doubles in one season for the Nuggets franchise, that is. Why is this? Why does he continue to buck conventional wisdom? Well, I have a theory, and that theory is twofold. See what you think about this. I think because of the way Nikola Jokic plays, he never forces anything. You know, some guys coming off of an injury, especially ones that are predominantly scorers, they try to force their way into the game. They try to force their shots up and in. And maybe that's why you see Russ. And also, you know, shot is about rhythm. Especially shooters that attempt shots from outside of 5 feet from the basket. But with Nikola Jokic, what's in his mind all the time is just make the right basketball play. If I'm not scoring, it's okay. I'll impact the game by setting other guys up. If I can't set other guys up, that's okay. I'll look for my own shot. And if those two things don't work, I at least can get rebounds. So because he impacts the game in so many different ways, if he's not quite feeling right in one aspect or another, he can just shift to the next thing. And I think it's easier for him to get back in the flow of things after missing time than other guys might. And then the other part of it, when you play as many games as Nikola Jokic does, when you don't miss time, missing games for whatever reason, as long as it's not a significant injury, I think it can kind of serve as a little bit of just a rest. You could be refreshed after something like that. The guy's hasn't taken an all-star break off. So I don't think it impacts him in the ways that it impacts some people. And you watch him last night, he looked pretty refreshed to me. Didn't miss a beat. Here's Nikola Jokic, obviously never likes to sit down, but in this case, he understood the reason why.
I mean, it was just smart. I think I couldn't really jump on my left leg, so it was really painful, and it was just better to feel good. And I don't want to be on the floor and be nervous because I cannot play how I want to play and on the level that I want to play. And I think it's correct to players, to coaches, that's just get well and be there 100%. Let's say like that.
Now, he wouldn't say for sure that he felt 100%. But gosh, he looked like it. He blew past Brook Lopez for the dunk early in the game. His touch was there around the rim and certainly on his passes.
Jokic on the pump fake. Oh, pass! And over the shoulder, no looker.
That call courtesy of Altitude Television. That pass he made. And if you haven't seen it yet, please do yourself a favor and look it up. The angle where the camera is facing him, his back is to where he's passing the ball. But when the camera is looking at him, to see the angle, the timing of it, the window that he had to throw to, that wasn't a wide open pass. It's ridiculous stuff. But we've seen this from Nikola Jokic. I remember he had a pass almost identical to that. And you have to go back, and I'll tell you how long ago this was, not by telling you the year, but by telling you that the Nuggets were in Carolina blue uniforms, and the pass that reminded me of the one he made last night was to Wilson Chandler. So that's how long ago it was. But it was almost identical. The motion he made, the fact that it was a baseline cutter he was trying to get it to, that's what that pass reminded me of. But that's a top 5 all-time Jokic assist. That one last night. And you could put other ones up there, right? He had the one, was it last year in Miami? Where he's going toward the baseline and he passes it behind his head to Aaron Gordon, who dunks it. So many of Jokic's great passes end up in the hands of Aaron Gordon, which further solidifies how good of a fit they are together. But even a lot of them come to Porter as well when he's cutting or he's trailing a play. You know what it reminds me of? When I watch those 3 guys, sometimes it reminds me of those New Jersey Nets teams when Jason Kidd was the point guard, and he had Kenyon Martin, and he had Richard Jefferson. And Jason Kidd would make all these insane passes ending up in Kenyon Martin or Richard Jefferson dunks. Jokic is Jason Kidd. Aaron Gordon would be Kmart. And Porter would be Richard Jefferson. It reminds me of that. So many of those great passes end up in the hands of those two guys. With Jamal Murray, it's the dribble handoff. It's the two-man game. He doesn't have as many of his great passes to Jamal Murray. But that was up there. The pass he made last night, that's for sure. So he looked like he didn't miss a beat. Nuggets get a win, which important. Now, more important than health, Nikola Jokic talking about the importance of being healthy coming first over what seed the Denver Nuggets get.
Goodness, is it really important? I think 1 through 10, everybody can beat everybody. I think so. I think as a group, we need to be healthy and be as much as ready as possible as we can. So I think seeding, yes, of course we want to homestand this and that, but I think we can have homestand and 3 guys injured. I think it's not worth it.
And that's been the topic of conversation around the Nuggets and around the Avalanche. Yes, both of these teams want to get home court. But are they willing to risk health? No. And they shouldn't be. If these two teams are as good as they think they are, it shouldn't matter that much what seed they get. Because the idea that they're not going to have home court over OKC, so that's already done for. And that really should be, I mean, we could talk about Minnesota a little bit and what kind of a matchup that is. But really, if this Nuggets team is as good as I think they are, given Peyton Watson's comments the other night of being better than people think they are, OKC should be the first series where you go, I wish the Nuggets had home court in this. And that wouldn't be most likely till the Western Conference Finals. I think the Nuggets are going to be a 2 or 3 seed. But they got the win. As I predicted, they did play with their food a little bit. Hope you didn't have Nuggets minus 10.5, or you got a better number than that. Because the Bucks had a backdoor cover with that line last night. But good to have Jokic back. And it's something interesting because it was spurred on by something Jokic said after the game about the starters all being together. That if you're looking for a reason to believe in the Denver Nuggets, I think I found something. And I'll share that with you coming up in a little bit. For now, I'll take your thoughts on the return of Jokic, 719-247-1313, just getting going on this Thursday edition of the show. Also, opening day. Happy opening day for those who celebrate. Kind of fitting that the Rockies are not on opening day, right? If they were, would you even notice? I mean, they're not. I'll save my thoughts on that whole thing till tomorrow. Got other business to attend to. And we'll get into that business coming up next here on Extra Sports 1300. Join me tomorrow. I'll be taking the show back to Trainwreck for the round of 16. Come by, enjoy some outstanding food and beverage. Take advantage of 2 acres of indoor and outdoor entertainment. And then make sure you stick around to watch the games on their stadium-size TV. That's tomorrow, Friday, March 28th, 3 to 5 at Trainwreck, 812 South Sierra Madre. So things are getting a little bit nutty with these draft rumors. I don't know if you've noticed this. And it has a lot to do with Shedeur Sanders and where he might go, as my note here is out of my reach. So you have Adam Schefter now, who is reporting that the Browns, or is he reporting? I guess anything that comes out of Adam Schefter's mouth is technically a report, given what his job description is. The sense that he's getting is probably the most accurate way to put it, is that the Browns are leaning toward Abdul Carter, the defensive end out of Penn State. Then you have, for those who observe, the betting odds for where Travis Hunter will land are now heavily in the favor of the New York Giants. And if you look at it without a quarterback involved, you take that out of the mix for a moment, I think both picks make a lot of sense, right? You're playing in a division, if you're Cleveland, with Lamar Jackson and with Joe Burrow. Even with those two, Myles Garrett may not be enough. So if you could put somebody on the other side, I get that. And really, for any team, I legitimately don't know a single team in the National Football League that would not fall over themselves for the opportunity to be on the clock when Travis Hunter's on the board. Two-way generational unicorn of a football player. I get it. Consider it punishment that you don't get to get those guys if you're Cleveland or New York, because you haven't done the most important thing yet. And I'll give the Denver Broncos as an example. They had the same pass rushers that they had to win Super Bowl 50 the very next year, won nothing. They had Von Miller for multiple years after that, won nothing. They drafted Pat Surtain, won nothing until what? Until they got Bo Nix. If there is a quarterback that a team believes in, you got to take him. Because you're not going to get it right. You're essentially going to be wasting another year. Yes, you'll have a Travis Hunter and Abdul Carter, but you'll be still a year away from really being taken seriously if you don't have a quarterback. And that's where I don't understand it. For the life of me, I don't understand it. But I'm starting to think that maybe the Giants and the Browns don't like Shedeur Sanders that much. And for the life of me, I can't figure it out. There are two quarterbacks in this draft. Spare me the Jalen Milroe and the Jackson Dart, okay? If they land in the perfect spot, then maybe something becomes of them. But when you're talking about franchise quarterbacks, there are two in this draft, and Shedeur Sanders is one of them. Why the Cleveland Browns, who are in cap hell and don't have a quarterback, and the Giants, who don't have a quarterback, would not be interested in Shedeur Sanders, I can't wrap my head around it. He's tough. He's a leader. He's a culture changer. The only thing I can think of is that when you put him next to Cam Ward, he doesn't have as many physical gifts. Right? He's not as big. He's not as strong. He doesn't run quite as well. He is a pocket quarterback. But Shedeur Sanders is a damn good one, and I don't understand why these teams won't want him. But at least they're either they're doing a great sell job that they're not interested in going, especially with the Giants, going above and beyond to sell the idea that they're not taking Shedeur only to take him by signing both Russell Wilson and Jameis Winston. Or they legitimately are more interested in taking Abdul Carter or Travis Hunter. So let's run with that premise. How long could Shedeur Sanders last? The idea that he's going to fall out of the top 10, to me, is laughable. I mean, I already don't get him falling out of the top 3, but him falling out of the top 10, I can't see it. I can't imagine a world where Shedeur Sanders is outside of the top 10. Even if you don't love Shedeur Sanders, you still know what happens with quarterbacks. Bo Nix is a great example. No one had him going where the Broncos took him. In every draft, there are previous quarterbacks who go much higher than we think. Why? Because they're quarterbacks. So even if you don't agree with my assessment of Shedeur Sanders, at least agree with the fact that teams, if you want to call it overdrafting, call it overdrafting, but quarterbacks tend to go up, not down, in the draft pecking order. So the idea that Shedeur is going to fall out of the top 10, I don't see. Here's the backstop for Shedeur Sanders. It's Vegas at 6. With the relationship that Shedeur has with Tom Brady, with that team in that division showing up to every football game this year in their division with a knife when everybody else has a gun, how could they pass on Shedeur Sanders? And I know Pete Carroll has said that he wants the Raiders to be decent immediately. Decent's my word, not his. He wants this thing to happen quickly. I think Shedeur, more than Cam Ward, here's one thing I will say for Shedeur over Cam. I think you could get it right faster with Shedeur than you can Cam Ward. I think Shedeur will need less time. Sometime, as all quarterbacks do. But less time. So I can't see Shedeur Sanders being on the board at 6 and the Raiders going, yeah, no, we're good. We'll take Ashton Genty instead. I can't see that. So to me, buy into the Browns-Giants stuff all you want. I don't think he gets past 6. So if you look below the Raiders, who might want to come up? Saints are still undoing the mess that Sean Payton left behind. Have to be fair. You love what he's doing in Denver. New Orleans is still sifting through all the cap implications of what Sean Payton did. So are they in a spot where they can take multiple draft picks and move up? And I think it's to 5. I don't think the Patriots are moving, because especially if the board plays out to where, Cam goes 1, Carter goes 2, Hunter goes 3, that leaves Will Campbell for New England. And I don't think that they're willing to move past. Maybe Jacksonville would be willing to entertain it. So New Orleans, I don't know, Dallas, I don't put anything past Jerry Jones, but I know in the wake of the Russell Wilson thing in Denver that there's this belief that anything cap related is possible, but I am telling you there are exceptions to every rule, and the exception is Dak Prescott. They cannot move him. And cutting him, they wouldn't even be able to put together a 53-man roster. They'd be calling up you and me to fill out the last couple roster spots. They can't move off of Dak. But logic and reason has never stopped Jerry Jones before. So we'll leave Dallas in the potential category. And then I think you have Pittsburgh. And I think Pittsburgh makes the most sense. But it's a very un-Pittsburgh-like thing to do. Because they already gave up a second-round pick for DK Metcalf. They would have to give up multiple picks in this draft and their first-round pick next year for a conservative front office like Pittsburgh that is not known for taking big swings. I would say it would be very out of character, but I would fully endorse the Pittsburgh Steelers giving up what it took to get up to 5. But it takes 2 to tango, right? Would Jacksonville be willing to move that far down the draft? But I better hope, because I don't see how the Raiders let Shedeur go by. I don't. Do you? 719-247-1313. Coming up next, the CSU Rams have found a new basketball coach, and they didn't even really need to look that far. Welcome back, Drive Time Sports. So, no surprise here, but the CSU Rams have tabbed Ali Farouk-Manesh as their next head coach to succeed Nico Medved in Fort Collins. And if you have been on social media, and I even mentioned it on the show earlier this week, that he was the favorite of both current and former CSU Rams. Neat Clifford was certainly very vocal about Farouk-Manesh being the best candidate on social media. Now, you do wonder sometimes, moving over that proverbial one seat. And certainly Farouk-Manesh has been integral in Neat Clifford's development and the improvement of this CSU program. So I'm not ringing alarm bells or anything, but he's not Nico Medved. Right? And in every program wonders about that. And it's part of the reason why it hurts so much, even if you understand, especially in Nico Medved's case, especially if you understand, or even when you understand, I should say, the reason for leaving. I don't know, there was a lot of animus towards Nico Medved's decision to go to his alma mater. But you worry about it as a fan, right? Because he's not that guy. We're seeing with the Nuggets, right? Tim Connolly to Calvin Booth gave him a ring endorsement. He's the guy. And, how do Nuggets fans feel about all that? But all you can do is make the right decision in the moment, right? And this seemed like easily the right decision for CSU. There's something to be said for continuity, and there's something to be said for listening to the players, and they say, we want this guy as our head coach. So now that brings it up. So what? UNLV just unveiled Josh Pastner yesterday. And it's the same stuff you always hear coming out of Las Vegas. It's a sleeping giant. We just need the right person to unlock everything. And, you've been hearing that for years out of UNLV. And I always think that too. I do. I was just there. I've spent more time over the past few weeks. I've spent more time in the month of March in Vegas than I have in Colorado Springs. I was just there last week. I see it. I understand it. There's money there, especially in the NIL world. Like, even more so now, UNLV should be able to get it right. But they go Josh Pastner, and now we wait to see what New Mexico does in the wake of Richard Pitino taking the Xavier job. And I wonder which one of these coaches, one to be determined, will kind of get out ahead of the curve a little bit when it comes to the changing landscape in college basketball. And here's what I mean by this. There is no going back to the way it was. Okay, we're going to see more and more of mid-majors getting poached. They're not going to be able, even if they can compete within their own ecosystem like a UNLV or like a New Mexico. New Mexico's done a phenomenal job getting players and in the doing what they need to do in the NIL era. But there's always going to be that top tier. Donovan Dent's a great example. Mountain West Player of the Year, living great down in Albuquerque, probably getting paid a pretty penny by the collective down there, still into the portal. I thought I saw a report today that he's going to UCLA. There's always going to be that. And I wonder who the coach is going to be that will embrace that and try to, it reminds me of like Moneyball, right? Because of the circumstances that Billy Beane found himself in, he along with Jonah Hill found a way, right? They didn't love their circumstance. You think they liked having the lowest payroll and all this kind of stuff? No, they hated it. But they leaned into it. They figured it out, what we could do to be successful in this. And it really does seem like if you want the best opportunity to sustain any level of success at the mid-major level moving forward, you got to embrace the idea that you are going to be picked apart any year you have success. You are going to lose players every single year, year over year. And there's nothing you can do. There's nothing you can do to stop it, which sucks. Okay, I'm not trying to say that this is a great system. It's only going to get worse for mid-majors. I'm sorry. It just is. But who's going to embrace it and say, you know what? There's fewer high school kids being recruited, right? Because everybody's reloading for the transfer portal. I'm going to do the work. I'm going to get these young men into my program, and I'm going to get them into my program with the promise. And the promise is we're going to win some basketball games, but I'm going to get you ready for that next level, right? You come to Colorado State, or you come to New Mexico, or you come to UNLV. I'm going to coach you up. I'm going to get you ready, and you're going to go to Duke, and you're going to go to Kentucky, and you're going to go to Arkansas and Auburn and Florida. That Norfolk State coach the other day talking about mid-majors being JUCOs. Does somebody lean into that mindset and make it a selling tool? It would be similar to John Calipari when he was doing the one and done stuff. Nobody wanted to embrace the one and done stuff. Coaches didn't want to go through every year recruiting new players. They didn't want to make it seem like it was more about getting guys to the NBA than it was winning basketball games. And John Calipari was vilified for it. But he carved out this niche, and guys wanted to go there. Guys loved playing for him. And along the way, he won basketball games. And I think that's how mid-major coaches need to approach it. And it's not an appealing existence. It really isn't, because the other part of this is you do this, but you stay. And that might be the more difficult part of it. Right? If you embrace this, I think you could be successful as a program, but in really to sustain success and keep doing this, you're going to have to resist the urge to be poached yourself. Right? Take FAU, for instance. So Dusty May builds up FAU. Kind of does exactly what I'm saying. He took lesser recruited guys. He builds them up. They go to the Final Four. But what happens? Michigan comes calling, and he's out the door. That might be the more difficult part of this. Is for a coach to go to a place like CSU, like New Mexico, like UNLV, and there are dozens of hundred other examples of this, but just to keep it localized and about the news of the day. Well, these three, Passner, whoever New Mexico hires, because New Mexico's kind of gone through it a little bit with the coaching changes. CSU had Medved for a while. But if Farouk Manesh has success, bigger schools are going to come calling. Does he stay? But I think there's an opportunity here if you embrace what it is, acknowledge what it is, acknowledge it's only going to get worse, lean into it, embrace it, almost like Deion Sanders at CU in this way. Like, I know I'm taking out, the brand that he is and everything like that, but he went to a school in CU that wasn't getting recruits, right? And part of the sell job is he doesn't even love NIL, but he's like, I'm going to get you those opportunities and I'm going to bring you notoriety, which is going to bring you more NIL opportunities. Like, he embraced it while still weaving in who he is as a coach and trying to coach these guys up the right way. And you see CU is progressing. CU is getting better. And I don't know how many, I think there are so many coaches, I don't blame them, but so many coaches that I hear at the mid-major level that are, lamenting what college basketball has become. And I get it, but the coaches who put that to the side and say, okay, where is and this is the baseball term, the market inefficiency. Well, the market inefficiency is now turning into the high school level. So instead of us bringing in all these transfers, and they can still be in the transfer portal, but instead of you trying to play the same game that major colleges are, you go into the high schools, you get these guys in, and you say, yeah, I know I'm going to lose you as soon as you have success. But it's going to be a symbiotic relationship. I'm going to get you ready to eventually transfer and move on. But while you're here, we're going to win basketball games. And it's a hard thing to sustain. It's going to be difficult. John Calipari, even with the one and dones, even being the one guy that's like, you want to go to the NBA after 1 year? Cool. Memphis is your place. Kentucky is your place. There were down years. But there are just forces at play here that I don't see any other option for these coaches than to kind of lean into it and to kind of find the market inefficiency and be okay to some degree with guys transferring out. Or, hey, maybe they see where their best players go and then they reach out to the player, the 10th, 11th player on that roster and say, hey, you want a better opportunity? Maybe we can't match your NIL money. Maybe we can, but we're going to give you, this dude just took your spot. You want to come here? I'll put you in my starting five immediately. It's not an ideal world. It's an unfair, cruel world. But these mid-majors are just going to continue to be poached year after year, and there's going to be nothing they can do to stop it except join with them, right? More conference realignment, or the coach leaves for a bigger job. But Mountain West undergoing quite a few changes in the coaching range, just like they did in football. It's only going to get worse. It's only going to happen more and more and more. Ram fans, how do you like your new coach? Take your thoughts at 719-247-1313. I did see, I think it was Kuiper, put out a full 7-round mock draft. And this gets to what I was talking about yesterday. Using the depth in this draft. We know that the Broncos need a running back. They have to add to that room. But why do they have to right away? The draft is a whole weekend. If they don't come out of the weekend with a running back, and I would say if they don't come out of day 2 with a running back, I don't think that's a good thing. But what's there to say that they have to take a running back at 20? And Mel Kiper put out, he has Luther Burden from Missouri going to the Broncos at 20. And then what are they doing? Taking a running back in the second round. And that's what I was talking about. You have to see, Luther Burden for that Broncos offense. The way they're using Marvin Mims now, we thought that Marvin Mims would be this burner. Well, they're not really using him that way. They're not really using him to stretch the defense necessarily. Right? He's found it, like he has that ability and they'll do it every once in a while, but now it's these gadget plays that they involve Marvin Mims. Luther Burden could take the top off of a defense. Or be able to catch an intermediate route, turn it upfield for a big play with his speed. So there's not one specific skill set that the Broncos have to get opposite Cortland Sutton. But Luther Burton's skill set certainly would be a good fit. So if I'm a Bronco fan, I like that idea. Still get a running back, still get a good running back. One of the two out of Ohio State. You get one of the elite wide receivers in this draft. Think that's a pretty good first couple rounds of the draft if the Broncos can pull it off. Coming up next, Nikola Jokic is back for the Nuggets. And why maybe there's another reason why we haven't seen the Nuggets play at a championship level for much of this season. That's next here on Extra Sports 1300. Welcome in Drive Time Sports on this Thursday. One more hour till the Sweet 16 begins. I think it's tipping off with Duke. No. Is it Duke or is it Maryland and Florida? I should look. We'll obviously have our Westwood One coverage, which means they'll kind of bounce back and forth like red zone style and get you to the best games. It will be actually BYU Alabama is the first one out of the gate. So BYU Alabama, what they're doing at BYU is fascinating. With pro coach, a lot of staffers that you would see at the NBA level or they're at BYU. They're taking on Alabama. Fans of 3-point shots will be very entertained by that. And then the evening rolls on here on Extra Sports 1300. Last night, the evening was highlighted by the return of Nikola Jokic, who, after 5 games off, came back, looked like he didn't miss any games. A 30, 10, and 10 triple-double. Had an insane pass that went viral last night. But something was pointed out last night by, I think it was, well, I don't know where reporter it was. I don't want to give credit where it's due or slight somebody who did actually ask the question, but it was posed to Nikola Jokic the fact that we've only seen him, Gordon, Murray, Brown, and Porter together for 21 games this season. It's a good pull on a stat there. Nikola Jokic was asked if that's a problem at all, that this team hasn't had a ton of time, that starting 5, I should say, has had enough time working together before the playoffs.
I think it's not an issue, just because I think we know what we need to do, and I think it's not chemistry. I think it's sacrifice in one moment. Are you going to be able to sacrifice yourself, your points, your this and that, your ego, your whatever it is to benefit the team?
That's an interesting thought from Nikola Jokic. That's more about sacrifice than, I guess, continuity. I think that he's talking about the defensive end of the floor. When I think, sacrifice and doing what, it could be a little bit, hey, not to pick on Michael Porter, but Michael Porter, we need you to go and get rebounds. Don't just camp out beyond the 3-point arc. We need you on the glass. But I think more than anything else, it's about defense, right? Sitting down defensively, committing to the defensive end of the floor and not thinking about when that next shot is going to come or how you can impact the game on the offensive end, because that will happen, right? Through Nikola Jokic, everybody's going to eat. And you look at the games in which that 5 is all together, they're 18-3. Last night, they put up, 127 points? I know no Giannis. That obviously impacts things on the defensive end for Milwaukee. Well, both ends of the floor, but Giannis, obviously, an elite defender. But they put up 127 against Milwaukee. The last time they were all together, it was the Laker game, and they put up 131. So I don't think anybody needs to worry where their next shot is coming from or whether they'll be marginalized offensively. I do still think there's something with Jamal Murray when he really goes off, that it comes at the expense of Michael Porter. But you look at the numbers offensively with all five guys, and obviously Jamal Murray isn't playoff Jamal in every one of those games. Pretty good distribution in terms of scoring. So on a normal night, everybody's going to eat on the offensive end. I have no real issue with the Denver Nuggets on the offensive end of the floor. It's the defensive end that I keep ringing alarm bells about. And last night was not a great defensive performance by any stretch of the imagination. But I looked into it. That lineup that's only been together for 21 games has a defensive rating that would rank in the top 5 in the NBA. And you think, is Porter a great defender? No. Is Nikola Jokic? No. Is Jamal Murray? Not really. Christian Brown's a good defender. Aaron Gordon's a great defender. But yet that group combined, when they're together, is one of the top defensive lineups in the NBA. One of the top defensive lineups in the NBA. So I wonder, could the biggest reason why we don't feel like we've seen the Nuggets regularly looking like a championship team really be just about the fact that their starting 5, which we know their starting 5 is infinitely important given their bench? Could it honestly just be that we haven't seen those 5 guys together in a game for 3/4 of this season? The only way we're going to know in the last, 10 games, where are we at with the Denver Nuggets? This stretch, and I would expect Michael Malone to err on the side of caution when it comes to some of these knocks that his team is playing with. So I don't think we'll see those guys all together the rest of the way. And even Nikola Jokic just said it there. He's not really that worried about the amount of time they play together. But any one of these remaining games, pay extra close attention, or at least I will be, and I'll report back to you. See what they look like when those 5 guys are all on the floor at the same time. Perhaps every time you feel like the Nuggets look like a championship contender, it's when those 5 guys are on the floor. And they haven't been together. Now, this is only a theory, right? This is only something to watch out for. And it doesn't guarantee that the Denver Nuggets are winning a title if those 5 guys are healthy and on the floor at the same time. Because 2 of the 3 losses that they have in those 21 games are to OKC and Minnesota. So it could be that the Nuggets look elite when those 5 guys are on the floor together. But whatever that looks like is still not going to get them past OKC and Minnesota. Minnesota because of the matchup, and OKC because of how talented Oklahoma City is. We could just, all these things I'm bringing up, we could just get to the same place. That no matter what the reason is why the Nuggets have looked the way they have and what they need and what they don't, it still might not be enough. Minnesota just might be that difficult of a matchup. OKC might just be that good. And even with the Nuggets' flaws, I'm thinking that those are the only 2 teams that I circle in the West and say, I'd be worried about those two teams if I'm a Nuggets fan. So it may not ultimately tip the scales in their direction in a series against Minnesota or OKC. But I do think it answers the question of why this team hasn't looked like their old selves or look like a championship contender enough this season. Some to watch out for down the stretch here, along with trying to identify who the Nuggets will play in the first round of the playoffs. Here's another aspect of last night in the absence of Nikola Jokic. I don't know if voters needed this, but I think that there are some that will use Jokic's absence over the last 5 games and any other games that he happens to miss between now and the end of the season. I think they're going to use that to give the MVP to Shea. Because if Nikola Jokic is out there, 80, 81 games, like where's you don't have to be like Stephen A. Smith and just say, I don't care what Jokic does in order to go with Shea, because when they're both on the floor and when you watch them side by side and compare them and go through all the different criteria for an MVP, you can't go against Jokic. You just can't. But if you don't see him, right? If the Nuggets are playing without him in the final stretch of the season, which we are into, I think there are some voters that with Jokic being out, and it started with, the Tim Bontemps comments that he made on ESPN. I think there are some people that not all of them actually have an agenda here. I just think this stretch, albeit only 5 games, is enough for some people to go, well, Shea, Jokic missed these 5 games. I've been watching Shea down the stretch, haven't been able to watch Jokic. Shea's been amazing. He's the MVP. It sounds a little silly, but I'm telling you, and maybe they were already there, right? Like, I'm not so sure that Shea wasn't going to get it anyway. But even for those who are legitimately looking at this and kind of sitting on the fence, there could be somewhat of a recency bias that over the last couple of weeks, there's been no Jokic when you're trying to make up your mind, but there's Shea. (719) 24/7 1313. Take your thoughts on the return of Jokic. Coming up next, remember last year when the Denver Broncos were projected in Vegas to win 5.5 games? Well, guess what? They're predicted to win many more this year. What is the Broncos over-under for wins this upcoming season? How will they exceed it? And how will they fall short? Tomorrow, I will be out at Trainwreck, 812 South Sierra Madre, doing the show live leading up to the second half of the round of 16. Obviously, with baseball season underway, Nuggets, Avalanche, there's a lot going on. Lot to watch. You want to be at a place with many TVs, and if you can help it, one with a giant TV, which Trainwreck does, stadium size, right? Smack dab in the middle with all these other TVs around. Great place to watch the game. Come out, hang out, get your seat, eat, drink, be merry. Tomorrow, Trainwreck 3 to 5 at 812 South Sierra Madre. If you recall last year, the Broncos win total in Vegas was a big topic of conversation because at 5.5, many people viewed that as disrespectful. And to the Broncos' credit, they far exceeded it. But the Broncos win total this year is a microcosm of what this season is going to be. Okay, you got your flowers. We're all paying attention. Now what are you going to do? You're not sneaking up on anybody. Vegas has the Broncos over-under at 9.5. That is a winning football team. And having a losing record would be a disaster of an upcoming season. But there's can't play the disrespect card. They're getting a lot of respect. 9.5 wins. That, to me, it's like last year. I thought that the better bet was the over just because you're really narrowing your choices if you take the under. Right? They could be a 6-7 win team and it'd be a bad season, but still exceed their win total. But now it's the other way around. Now, if you think that the Broncos are going to exceed their win total, now you have a very narrow window because nobody's talking about the Broncos winning 13, 14 games, right? So how do they exceed 9.5 wins? And I think it's pretty simple, and you could talk about it the other way too. If you think they're going to get the under, isn't it Bo Nix? Doesn't it all hinge on him entering year 2? If he progresses, if he improves, that's how the Broncos can exceed their win total. If he doesn't, if he's flat or down, they're not going to win 10 games. I think Bo Nix, I think it's reasonable to say that Bo Nix will have to, from start to finish, be better this year than he was last year. I think that's fair to say. And C.J. Stroud is a great example of it, right? C.J. Stroud had a better rookie season than Bo Nix had a rookie season. But his play wasn't quite what it was in his rookie year. And Houston still had a good season, but not as good as they had the year before. So if Bo Nix, especially, I look at an easy way, and it's easier said than done, sure, but an easy way to do the math here and say that the Broncos will be better than they were last year and exceed even a fairly high win total at 9.5, I think it's right out of the gate. I think that's where you look, right? 2 games last year right out of the gate that you had no expectation for Bo Nix. In fact, you probably had low expectations for Bo Nix. You couldn't hold the Broncos to a high standard starting a rookie quarterback on the road. And you saw what happened. You were correct in not having lofty expectations for Bo Nix the first couple of weeks. And by extension, the Denver Broncos. But that's the easy place right there, right? If the Broncos can come out of the gate better than they did last year, then they'll give themselves an opportunity to be better than they were a year before, to exceed this win total. And that hinges on Bo Nix, but it doesn't mean that it's strictly Bo Nix's responsibility. I don't know how much Sean Payton can do for him. I think Sean Payton did a lot for him last year to get him off to a great start. I look at the personnel and say, that's got to be better. That's how Bo Nix gets better. Because if you look at C.J. Stroud, his offensive line, the injuries to wide receiver. So even though C.J. Stroud looks from a statistical standpoint that he regressed, and at times you watched him and he wasn't as good as he was the year before, you're like, that offensive line's not very good. Lost Stephon Diggs pretty early. End up losing Nico Collins. Like, it will still ultimately be about Bo Nix's play, and he still has to improve. Maybe more so than last year. Last year was very much about Sean Payton and the guys around him. Now it's shifted a little bit. I think it's more on Bo Nix, but the guys around him still have a very active role to play here. But you bring in Evan Ingram. Okay, now you're going to get a full year of Marvin Mims in this role, which should be good. And my draft scenario of the Broncos potentially getting a skill position player that's not a running back in round 1 and getting a running back in round 2. If they're able to swing that, then you can say that the Broncos not only did what they needed to do on the defensive side, but now they've done everything you could possibly ask them to do on the offensive side of the football to make themselves better. I think that the Broncos with this draft have a chance to cap off a terrific offseason. I mean, Sean Payton and George Payton are collecting the Infinity Stones, right? They got a few of them. They got they got safety. They got inside linebacker. They got the Joker, which was the most important one. I'll let you Marvel fans decide which stone was the most important one. You running back still there, and I still think a wide receiver's there. But they have the chance to do that in the draft. And then Bo Nix, you got everything you need. Make it happen. I think it's pretty clear cut. If Bo Nix is better than he was in year 1, I think the Broncos will exceed even a pretty high win total of 9.5. If he's flat to down, which doesn't mean that his career is over, because we've seen it a lot with second-year quarterbacks. A lot of them do take a step back, or a lot of them don't push forward and take their game to another level. So that's entirely possible. But if he does, I think that the Denver Broncos don't improve on their win total of last year and don't exceed Vegas's win total. You got to win close games, too. They were not good in close games last year. Pick off a couple of those. The roadmap is there. I can see it. I can see why somebody would take the over. I just think you're really narrowing your realistic choices. Because this isn't, I think you're looking at 10, 11 wins. 12 is a bridge too far, in my opinion. They can get there. But having said everything I just said, if I'm betting one side or another, I'm probably taking the under. That's probably the way I would lean on that. But 9.5. There's a roadmap to get there. I thought there was no way that the Broncos would lose or would win fewer than 5 games. But I don't see how this team's going to win 12, 13, 14 games. (719) 24/7 1313. Coming up next, Sweet 16 at the top of the hour. So let's talk a little bit about what to expect tonight. That's next here on Extra Sports 1300. Sweet 16 tonight. It'll start with BYU, Alabama. Other games will include Florida, Maryland, Duke, Arizona. And then the late one tonight is the Cinderella story of the John Calipari coached Arkansas Razorbacks. Now, to be fair, not a lot of people thought Arkansas would be a Sweet 16 team at the beginning of the year or even at points during the year. So kudos to John Calipari for coaching up this bunch. But if you want me to label Arkansas a Cinderella, then sorry, not going to happen. This is chalky. This is power conference basketball. Not picking Arkansas for a Cinderella. But it's the best we got, right? If you want to label anybody, it's got to be them. Man, these lines are tight tonight. Alabama laying 4.5. Florida's laying 6.5. Duke is laying 9.5, and Texas Tech 5.5. Arkansas is getting back one of their best players, which is probably why the line is where it is. I have all these matchups, not Alabama, BYU. At Alabama here, not BYU here. Had Florida, Maryland, Duke, Arizona, not Arkansas. Texas Tech. I like Texas Tech a lot. I think they might cover. And if you're looking for an upset tonight, I think I'm going to go BYU. Most likely to cover Texas Tech, the most likely upset. BYU. This whole Kevin Willard thing with Maryland and Villanova is bizarre. So this is a guy that has publicly, repeatedly bashed his athletic department for not having all the tools he needs to compete. And then yesterday, he was asked about it. Like, why do you feel the need to essentially air your dirty laundry? Why do you think that's the best way to advocate for your program? And Kevin Willard just launched into his scouting report on the Gators, which is just, it's a joke. So he'll tell anybody who listens that Maryland is not giving him what he needs to compete. Basically saying, I'm going to take the Villanova job. And then when somebody asks him directly about it, here's your opportunity, defend what you are doing, and he completely dodges the question. Like, just soft behavior. Dan Hurley has now taken more accountability for acting out than Kevin Willard has. But I said that I thought with McNeese State, I thought they were going to get boat raced in the first round because this whole Will Wade openly flirting with North Carolina, maybe the fact that he was upfront about it and he was honest, he's like, yeah, I've talked to him. Maybe that was the key because McNeese didn't seem to play too bothered by it. But what a huge distraction to have around your team. It's not even a secret. He's going to take the Villanova job the minute Maryland is out of the tournament. He may announce at his post-game press conference if they lose tonight that he's going to be the head coach. He's going to pull Al Pacino in Any Given Sunday. He's going to thank his players and talk about how hard they played and everything. And then at the very end, he's going to, and I'm going to Villanova and I'm taking Patrick Queen with me. Not Patrick Queen, Derek Queen. Although Queen has become a star in Baltimore, I don't know that he wants to leave for Philadelphia. But remember that scene on Any Given Sunday? Like, I could see Kevin Willard doing something like that. He's gone. He's so gone. And reportedly, Maryland's already sifting through who they might get to replace him. This has to impact Maryland against the best team in this tournament outside of Duke. I know UConn pushed Florida, but Florida is still every bit the team they were going into the tournament. That has to impact them, right? I suppose we'll find out tonight, won't we? More baseball on the slate this evening. Rockies open up tomorrow. I'll have thoughts. You've been warned. Watch the Yankees win, so that was good. Now I have the Pirates and Marlins on. Skeens, not great. Not terrible, but not great today, getting the opening day start. 5 1/3, 2 runs on 3 hits, struck out 7. He threw 94 pitches, so I guess we're doing this whole thing again, where Paul Skeens can't get up to 100 pitches. Although it's opening day. Okay. I could kind of see it. But Pirates up on Miami. Isn't Soto's debut tonight? Isn't that the big baseball draw of the evening? Oh, Dodgers, obviously. Rockies Rays tomorrow. Rockies Rays at the Yankees spring training facility. Fitting in a way, don't you think? And then one more basketball note. NBA, one and done for the mini tournaments. Who saw this coming? Everyone. What a disaster that All-Star game was. Although, to me, I would like to have them do it one more year. Just without Kevin Hart. I just want to know, without Kevin Hart in the mix, whether that is any more enjoyable. Because part of me thinks it might be slightly more enjoyable if Kevin Hart is not yammering on nonstop for the entire 3 hours. But we won't get that chance because they're scrapping the whole thing. This is so obvious. It's obvious to everybody. You just need to have Team USA versus the world. Just do it. I don't care about American players' egos. You'll still have Steph. You'll still have LeBron. You'll still have KD. Get after it. Something tells me that's not what they're going to do for the All-Star game, but RIP to the mini tournaments. So there's that as well. I think that's all I got. Make sure tomorrow, join me out at Trainwreck, 812 South Sierra Madre. Be talking about the Sweet 16. Little, tiny bit of opening day talk. And also the Avalanche in action tonight. Should be a really good game. LA's hot. Avs are hot. What happens when two hot teams get together? We'll find out later this evening. Before I go, let's talk about feeling your best. If you don't feel that same energy, strength, maybe you're feeling moody or it seems you've lost your drive with your partner, it could be low testosterone. Testosterone therapy may be the answer, and you'll find true experts at Low T Center. Getting tested is fast and easy, and if it is low T that's been sticking in your craw lately and causing you some of these problems, know you're in the right place, the best place to get treated, because other places they're going to go with a standard dosage TRT program. They give it to everybody. At Low T Center, they customize it. They personalize it for you and your needs. So get started today. Go to lowtcenter.com to book an appointment. That's lowtcenter.com. Low T Center, reinventing men's healthcare. It has been my pleasure to serve you. I'll see you out at Trainwreck tomorrow at 3. Hopefully, maybe. It would mean a lot to me if you showed up. Coming up right after this short break. Heck, why do we need to wait for the break here? We'll go to the break. We'll go to the break, and then on the other side, it will be the Sweet 16, starting off with BYU and Alabama.